As you've seen throughout this journey, the wild hog invasion is no minor inconvenience. It's a full-scale agricultural disaster. These animals are not just wandering through fields or nibbling at the edges of crops. They are tearing entire farms apart, destroying months of labor in a single night, and leaving behind a trail of devastation that stretches across counties and states. For the farmers, this isn't about losing a few ears of corn or a patch of wheat, it's about losing their livelihood. Entire harvests are being wiped out, equipment is being damaged, land is being degraded. And with each passing season, the situation only grows worse. That's why we've had to respond with force. Not because we want to, but because we have to. We've reached a point where gentle deterrence and passive solutions no longer work. The hogs have grown too smart, too aggressive, and too numerous. If we don't act decisively, if we don't meet this crisis with the seriousness it demands, then the damage will continue to spread, swallowing more farms, more communities, and more futures. Our hunts are not taken lightly. Every operation is carefully planned and executed with precision, ethics, and the safety of both people and animals in mind. We use technology from drones to thermal scopesto, minimize suffering, and maximize effectiveness. And while some may view our approach as harsh, they haven't stood in a farmer's boots, staring at a ruined field at sunrise. They haven't seen the toll it takes, mentally and financially, when a season's worth of work is turned into nothing overnight. We don't hunt for sport, we hunt to protect. And as long as wild hogs continue to destroy the land that feeds our nation, we will continue to take action. Because doing nothing is not an option and the cost of inaction is simply too high. Right at the start of the hunt, we knew we were in for something big literally. As we moved into the first stretch of land, it didn't take long before we spotted them. Massive wild hogs, some of the biggest we'd encountered in weeks. These weren't your average-sized pigs. These were full-grown, battle-hardened boars, easily tipping the scale at over 300 pounds. Their size alone was intimidating: thick, muscular frames, long tusks, and eyes that scanned the terrain with uncanny awareness. You could feel the tension in the air. One wrong move, and they'd bolt or worse, charge. But we were ready. This wasn't our first time, and it certainly wouldn't be our last. What made the difference today wasn't just firepower, it was teamwork. Every member of our group knew their role. We moved like a unit, some pushing from the flanks, others covering escape paths, and sharpshooters taking position with clear sight lines. Communication was fast, calm, and precise. No yelling, no confusion, just the kind of smooth coordination that comes from experience and mutual trust. As the hogs began to shift and scatter, we struck with perfect timing. One by one, they dropped clean, efficient takedowns. No panic, no chaos, just control. Every successful shot was a result of multiple people doing their jobs flawlessly. One spotting, another lining up, another holding the line to keep the herd from slipping away. Within the first hour, we had already brought down a surprising number of targets, and each one was a heavy hitter, the kind of hog that could rip through a field in a matter of minutes if left unchecked. The energy was high, but focused. We knew this was only the beginning, but starting strong gave us the momentum we needed. It reminded us that while hunting wild hogs is no easy task, the bond between teammates, our shared purpose and discipline can turn a difficult challenge into a coordinated success. And on days like this, that unity makes all the difference. We don't hunt wild hogs out of thrill or personal passion. This isn't about satisfying a hobby or chasing adrenaline. It's about stepping up to a responsibility we've come to understand all too well. For us, hunting these animals is a duty rooted in the awareness of a much larger issue, the urgent need to protect our environment, our agricultural resources, and the delicate balance of local ecosystems. Wild hogs aren't just a nuisance, they're an ecological menace. Their presence causes a ripple effect across every layer of the landscape. They uproot native vegetation, destroy habitats, pollute waterways, and displace species that have lived in harmony for generations. The damage goes far beyond torn-up fields and trampled crops. In areas where wild hogs thrive, native animals like ground-nesting birds, reptiles, and even deer populations suffer. Wetlands are drained and muddied, fragile soil structures are destroyed, and invasive plant species take hold in the chaos left behind. And as if that weren't enough, wild hogs also serve as carriers of serious diseases, many of which can be transmitted to livestock, pets, and in some cases, even humans. Left unchecked, their spread becomes not just a threat to farms, but to biodiversity and public health itself. That's why we take this work so seriously. We hunt not for sport, but for stewardship. We understand that every hog we remove is a step toward restoring the land to its natural balancia, step toward giving native wildlife a fighting chance, and toward protecting the resources that sustain communities. This isn't a job we celebrate with high fives and trophies. It's one we take on with quiet resolve, knowing full well that if we don't act, the damage will only grow worse. In the end, our actions aren't about pleasure, they're about preservation. Because true respect for nature doesn't just mean admiring it from afar. It means defending it when it's under threat, even when the work is hard, messy, and misunderstood. No matter how many obstacles we face, how much sweat we shed, how many hours we spend trudging through thick brush, soaked in mud and exhaustion, we never back down. Hunting wild hogs isn't a clean or easy job. It's physically demanding, mentally exhausting, and sometimes downright dangerous. These animals aren't passive targets. They're aggressive, intelligent, and when cornered, they fight back. We've had hunters knocked off their feet, slashed by tusks, and left bruised and bloodied. Some days, the price we pay out here is more than just fatigue its injury. And yet, through it all, we press on. Because this mission is bigger than our own comfort. We're not doing this for trophies or recognition. We do it for the land, for the people who depend on it, and for the ecosystems being torn apart by the unchecked spread of wild hogs. When you've seen the damage they cause with your own eyes, entire harvests lost overnight, fences ripped open, native wildlife driven into retreat, you understand that this is a fight worth bleeding for. Every step we take through sweltering heat or freezing wind, every long night spent tracking under moonlight, every close call we endure it, all carries a purpose. There are moments of fear. Yes, moments when you hear the grunt of a charging boar or catch a glimpse of movement too close for comfort. But fear doesn't stop us. It sharpens us. It reminds us what's at stake. And in those moments, we don't retreat. We tighten our grip, steady our breath, and do what we came here to do. Because giving up isn't an option. Not when farmers are counting on us. Not when the land itself is under siege. Our resolve is forged through hardship, and every scar tells a story of resistance, not defeat. We may come home tired, scraped, and sore, but we never come home defeated. Against wild hogs, we stand our ground, always.
We set out just as the sun dipped behind the mountains, leaving the sky painted in a dull ash grey. Slung across each of our shoulders was a rifle no for senseless killing, but to protect what little remained of the crops, the land, and the hope, the wild boars had become a true nightmare. They didn't just tear up fields, they spread fear and despair across entire farming communities that depended on every stalk of corn, every row of vegetables, every root in the soil. As night fell, We moved deeper into the ravaged fields where footprints and broken stems were all that remained. The silence was haunting only. Our footsteps and tense breathing broke the stillness. Then suddenly, from the brush ahead, a large boar emerged. Its eyes glowed red in the beam of a flashlight, like twin embers. A single gunshot rang out clean and fast. The first one was down. Then came the second, the third. With each boar that fell, it wasn't victory. We felt it was a fragile piece of peace being restored. Every time we pulled the trigger, we thought of the farmers waiting on a harvest, the children counting kernels of corn on the porch, the quiet night without the fear of destruction. This wasn't just a hunt, it was a mission to hold on to some sliver of order in a world where nature had turned against us. We moved on to another area, where fresh signs of wild boars were scattered across the damp soil. Uprooted dirt, small trees knocked over, deep hoofprints stretching in long rose-clear evidence that a large herd had recently passed through. The air felt thick with unease, as if the entire field was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. It was obvious. This area had more boars, larger groups, and likely more aggression. We split into smaller teams, quietly advancing into zones with the heaviest activity. Every step was calculated. Each movement, deliberate tone, careless sound, could scatter the herd in an instant. Eyes sharp, ears tuned to the faintest rustle. We listened to the wind and watched every shifting shadow. The fields had become a battleground in waiting, and we were the silent soldiers moving in before the chaos. No one spoke. We communicated only through glances and hand signals. Even the soft rustling of leaves made our hearts race. Though we had faced wild boars many times before, each encounter was different. These animals were growing smarter, more alert, and more dangerous. Still, we knew what was at stake. The crops, the land, and the families depending on us. We didn't back down, not now, not here. Fortunately, on this wild boar hunting trip, we weren't alone. Alongside us were our brave hunting dogs, tireless, loyal, and incredibly courageous companions. From the very start, they were already hard at work, sniffing the air, listening closely, and reacting instantly to any sign of nearby boars. Sometimes, all it took was a faint rustle or a subtle breeze carrying a strange scent, and their keen noses would pick it up, warning us without hesitation. When we moved into dense, overgrown areas where humans hesitated to tread, the dogs charged in first, fearless and focused. They dove into thorny underbrush, tracked the faintest traces, and led the team straight toward our targets with incredible precision. More than once, their barking pierced the silence of the night, signaling that a wild boar was near. Thanks to those alerts, we were able to act quickly, preparing ourselves for sudden encounters. But they weren't just scouts, they were guardians. These dogs stayed close, alerting us to danger and helping to prevent surprise attacks when a cornered boar tried to fight back. They never strayed from our sides, ready to protect us at all costs. In the tensest moments, hearing their panting beside us gave us strength and courage to press on. Thanks to them, this hunt was not only more successful, but also safer and filled with a deep sense of teamwork.